Hello everyone and welcome to Data Science Part 1 video on Intellipaat. Do you know friends that data science is a very vast field and you cannot master it just in one day. The goal of this video is to provide a comprehensive understanding of data science using R. Now before we discuss our today's agenda, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon. So first we will discuss about installing R and RStudio. Moving ahead, we are going to discuss about accessing columns. Then we are going to learn about accessing rows. Moving ahead, we are going to learn about arithmetic operators. Then we are going to discuss the relational operators. And at the end, we are going to conclude our sessions with discussing the logical operators.
So guys, this is the latest version of R 3.5.1. So let's go to CRAN repository and download this. So I'll just type out download R over here. I'll click on the first link and this is the latest version. So I'll click on download R 3.5.1 for Windows since I'm using a Windows system. Right. Now we would also require an IDE to make our tasks easier. So one such IDE is RStudio. RStudio makes it extremely easy to write scripts and work with graphics. So let's go ahead and download RStudio as well. Again, what I'll do is I'll just type out download RStudio over here. I'll click on the first link. I'll click this. And since again I'm using a Windows system, I'll download this latest version of RStudio. Right, so we have successfully downloaded R and RStudio into our system. So now that we've installed R and RStudio, it's finally time to get on with the practical part. So we'll start off by reading data into R console. R provides different functions to read different data formats. So if you want to read a text file, you can use the read.table function. For comma separated files, you can use read.csv function. For reading JSON files, you have the from JSON function. And similarly, if you want to read data from HTML tables, R provides a function called read HTML table. So you can read all formats of data into R. And since our customer churn data is of .csv type, he'll be using the read.csv function. So let's head on to RStudio. So this is RStudio, guys. So I'll use the read.csv function to read the customer churn dataset. Alright, I'll put in the double quotes. Now, this is the dataset, guys. This is the .csv file. I'll click on properties and I'll copy the path from over here. And I'll paste the path. Now, you need to keep in mind that this is actually a / when you're giving the path. Right? And after giving the path, I'll give the name of the file, which will be customerchurn.csv. And I will store this in a new object and I'll name the object to be customer churn as well. Right, so this what you see is actually an assignment operator. So I'm reading this path and I'm saving this file into an object called as customer churn. Right, now let me have a glance at this data set. So what I'll do is I'll use the view function. So I'll type view and I'll type out customer churn. So this is our customer churn dataset, guys. Now let me use the class function to have a look at the type of this object. So I'll use class and I'll give the name of the object, which is customer churn. So what we see is this object is of type data frame. That is, this is actually a data frame. Now if you're coming from the SQL background, you can say that a data frame is actually sort of a table. So over here, all of these columns are of the same data type and each row represents a record of this data frame. Right, so let's say if I select this column tenure, then this will be of one particular data type. So let me go ahead and see what is the type of this. So I'll use class and I'll type customer churn $tenure. So I see that this is of integer type. That is, this tenure column is of integer type. Now another thing that you need to keep in mind is all of these columns are actually vectors and factors. That is, a vector is a set of homogeneous entities and a factor represents categorical values. So now let me type out class and what I'll do is I'll type out customer churn $gender. So I get that the class of this object is factor. Now what we see over here is this just has two categorical values, female and male. So whenever we have just categorical values, then most probably the class of that column is a factor, right? So we've understood what a data frame is, and we've also had a look at vectors and factors. Right now, we'll go ahead and understand how can we access individual columns from this data frame or access individual elements from this data frame. Now, let's say I would want to access the column device protection from this entire data frame. So how can I do that? So it's actually simple. So what I'll do is I'll start off by giving the name of the data frame, which will be customer churn. Then I'll use the dollar symbol and I automatically get a list of all of the columns. And since I need the device protection, I will type DEVI. I'll select this and I'll store this in a new object, and I'll name this new object as C underscore device protection. Right, so let me have a glance at this actually. So I'll type view of C underscore device protection. So what I've basically done is from this entire data set, I've just selected this column and stored it into a new object and named that object as C device protection. Right, so similarly, if I want to select the payment method column, I can do the same thing. So what I'll do is I'll type out the name of the data frame. I'll use the dollar symbol and I'll type the name of the column, which will be payment method over here. And I'll store this in, let's say, C payment. Now let me have a glance at this. So I'll type view C underscore payment. Right, so I have separated this column from this entire data set. Right, so this is one way by which we can select individual columns. We can also use the now let's go ahead and look at the second method. So the second method is also simple. So what we'll do is we'll start off by giving the name of the data set, and I'll give the square braces. Now inside the square braces, the values which are on the left side of the comma represent all of the rows, and the values which are on the right side of the comma represent all of the columns. Now let's say I would want to select this gender column. So what I'll do is I'll just give the numbering of the column, that is at which position the column is present. So I'll type out 2 over here and I'll save this in, let's say, C underscore gender. Now let me have a look at this. So I'll type view C underscore gender. Right. So I have used the square braces to select the second column from this customer churn dataset. Now, similarly, if I want to select the first column, I can do the same thing. So what I'll do is I'll just put 1 over here and I'll name this object as C underscore ID. Right. So let's have a look at this view of C underscore ID. This is a column which gives me the customer IDs. Right. Now, we can also select multiple columns in the same way. So let's say I would want to select the second, sixth, and seventh column from the customer churn dataset. So what I'll do is I'll put a comma over here. I'll use the combine function, right? And I'll give all of the columns that I want to select. So I need the second column, the sixth column, and the seventh column, right? And I'll store this in C underscore 267. So let's see what is the result now. Again, I'll type view of C underscore 2, 6, and 7. Right, so I have successfully selected second column, sixth column, and seventh column. So let's actually verify. So yes, this is the second column, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is tenure, 7 is phone service. Right, so we have sixth and the seventh column. So this is how we can separate out some specific columns from the data set. Let's say I would want these two columns over here. So I can actually type out the names of those columns. So what I'll do is I'll type monthly charges and I'll save this in C month. So let me have a look at this view of C month. Right, so I have successfully selected out the monthly charges column. Now I can also select a set of continuous columns. So let's go and do that. Now, let's say I would want to select all of the columns from senior citizen to multiple lines. That is from column number 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I would want all of the columns from column number 3 to column number 8. So let's go ahead and do that now. So for that, what I'll do is I'll type the name of the data set. I'll put a comma over here. I'll put 3, and from 3 I'll use colon symbol. I'll just put out 8 over here. So this will give me all of the columns starting from the third column to the 8th column. So let's say I will save this in C underscore 38. So let me have a look at this now. View of C underscore 38. Right. So I have successfully selected out all of the columns from third to 8th. So the third column is senior citizen and the 8th column is multiple lines. Right now, so this is how we can filter out some specific columns. So if we wanted to filter out some specific rows, so let's go ahead and understand how can we do that. Now, as I've already stated, if you would want to filter out rows, we would want to give it on the left side of the comma. And if you would want to filter out some specific columns, you would want to give it on the right side of the comma. So let's go ahead and filter out some rows. So now let's say I would want the second row of this data set. So all I need to do is type in 2 over here, and this will give me the second row. Right, so let me store it in C underscore, and let me have a look at this. View of C underscore 2. Right, so this is the second record whose customer ID is 5575. So let me just verify. Right, so this is the second record over here, and this is the same record that we have successfully filtered out. Similarly, let's say if I would want the record or the row number 100, so I'll just type out 100 over here, and let me store this in C underscore 100. Let me have a look at the result. View of C underscore 100. Alright, so this is the record which is placed at the 100th row, whose customer ID is this. Now we'll go ahead and understand how can we filter out multiple rows from this. So let's say I would want the first, fifth, and the 10th row. So I'll use the combine function over here, and I'll give all of the row numbers. So I need the first row, fifth row, and the 10th row. And I'll store this in, let's say, 1 underscore 5 underscore 10. Alright, so let me have a glance at this. I'll type C underscore 1 underscore and this. Right. So I have successfully filtered out the first, fifth, and the 10th row. So see that the gender of the customers at first and fifth columns is female, and the gender at the 10th column is male. Now what we'll do is we'll filter out a sequence of rows. So let's say I would want all the rows from let's say row number 100 to row number 200. So what I'll do is I'll type 100 to 200, and I'll store this in C 100 200. So let me have a glance at this. I'll type view of C underscore 100 200. Right, so this gives me 101 entries starting from row number 100 to row number 200. Right, similarly, let's say if I would want all of the rows from 10,000. So similarly, let's say if I would want all of the rows from 5,000 to 7,000, we can also do that. I'll just simply put over here 5,000, and then I'll type in 7,000 over here. Right, so let me just type out 5,000, 7,000 over here. Let me have a glance at this. So I'll type view of C underscore 5,000, 7,000. Right, so there are 2001 entries starting from row number 5,000 to row number 7,000. Right. Now what we'll do is we'll give out both the row numbers and the column numbers. That is, we'll filter out some specific rows and some specific columns. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's say I would want the row numbers from 50 to 60 and I would want just the second and the third column. So let's go ahead and do that. So the row numbers from 50 to 60 and just the second and third column. So I'll use C2, 3. And let's just store in C random 1. Let me have a glance at this view of C underscore random 1. Right, so this gives me all of the records from row number 50 to row number 60, and I've just selected these two columns, gender and senior citizen. Now let me actually go ahead and complicate this a bit. So let's say I would want row numbers from 100 to 200 and also from 1000 to 2000, and I would want the columns 2, 3, 5 and 7. So let's go ahead and do that now. Right, so I'll use C over here. First part would be where I need row numbers 100 to 200, and I would also need row numbers from 1000 to 2000. Right, so this is my first part where I'm filtering out all of the rows, and I would need column numbers 2, 3, 5 and 7. So let me go ahead and put down all of these column numbers, and let me store this in C underscore random 2. So let me have a look at this view of C underscore random 2. Alright, so I have 1102 entries in total, where I have rows from 100 to 200, and as you see over here, just after row number 200, the row number gets to 1000 because I have filtered out all of the rows from 100 to 200, and then it starts from 1000 to 2000, and I've selected column number 2, 3, 5 and 7. Right. So this was an intro to our data frames, vectors and factors, and how can we access individual elements from the data frame. So broadly speaking, these are the operators. We have assignment operators, arithmetic operators, logical operators, and relational operators. So let's go to RStudio and work with all of these. So we are back to RStudio, guys. So now to work with assignment operators, what I'll do is I'll start off by loading the customer churn dataset. And I'll use the read.csv function for this. I'll put in double quotes and let me go ahead and copy the path of this dataset. So this is the dataset. I'll go to properties and copy the path. I'll paste it over here. Again, this needs to be a forward slash. So I'll change this backward slash to a forward slash. And I'll go ahead and give the name of the dataset, which will be customer churn.csv. Now what we'll do is we'll give an assignment operator. So this symbol which you see over here is nothing but an assignment operator, which helps us to store values into an object. So using this assignment operator, I'll store this customer churn.csv file into an object, and I'll name that object to be, let's say, churn1. Now similarly, there are two other ways by which we can use this assignment operator. So I'll copy this. I'll just clear this window first. Right. And now I can actually give the name of the object first and then use this assignment operator. Right. So this is less than symbol hyphen. It's the same thing. So I am basically loading this path into this object using this assignment operator. Right. So let me have a glance at this. I will type view of churn2. Right. So we have our data set now. Now instead of using these two operators, I can also use the equal to operator. So I will change this to churn3 now. And when I have a glance at this, this will actually be the same. So churn1, churn2 and churn3 are actually the same data sets, but I've just used different assignment operators to store them into these objects. Right, so these were the different assignment operators. Now we'll go ahead and work with arithmetic operators as well. So arithmetic operators simply are plus, minus, division and multiplication. So now we'll be implementing all of those arithmetic operators on top of this customer churn dataset. So you see these two columns over here, monthly charges and total charges. So I will be using the arithmetic operators on top of this. So I will take this cell over here. So let's say this customer's monthly charges is 29, but actually what happened was there was some calculation error and his monthly charges was just 28.85. So we'll go ahead and change this value to 28.85. So how can we do that? So for that, all we have to do is subtract this cell value with 1. So let's do that. So I will select churn $1 and I'll select the column name, which is monthly charges. Since this is the cell which is the first row, I will give out 1 over here. So from this cell value, I need to subtract 1. Right, I have subtracted 1. Now I'll store this result back to the same cell. So I'll type churn $1 monthly charges, and the cell is obviously 1. Now let me have a glance at churn 1 dataset. Let me go to the monthly charges column. Right, so here is the difference. So initially the value was 29.85. We have rectified the error, we have subtracted 1 from it, and now the value is 28.85. So similarly, we will be using the plus operator. So plus operator basically helps us to add something to the predefined value. Again, so let's see the second customer over here whose charges are 1889, but again this was incorrectly calculated and his charges were 1890. So we'll just add that 1 to this using the plus operator. So let me select that cell. I'll type churn $1 total charges, and the cell number is 2, and I'll add 1 to that. After adding 1, I'll store it back to the same result. So I'll type churn $1 total charges, and the cell number is obviously 2. So let me refresh this. View of churn 1. Let me go to the total charges column. Right, so initially it was 1889.50. After adding 1 to it, the total charges became to 1890. Now let's say there is some discount going on, and randomly a customer gets a discount of 10%. So let's see, it is this customer over here who gets a discount of 10%. So let me see which row number is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is row number 9 over here, and let's say this customer gets a discount of 10%. So what we have to do is basically multiply this value with 0.9, and when you multiply with value with 0.9, the value gets reduced by 10%. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll type churn $1 total charges, and it is the 9th cell over here. I will multiply this with 0.9, and I'll store it back to the same cell over here. So this will be churn $1 total charges, and I've given the cell number over here. Right, let me press enter, and let me see what is the result. So view of churn 1. So let me go to total charges over here. Right, so initially it was 3046, and after giving a discount of 10%, that total charges came down to 2741. Right, so let me show it again. So it was initially 3046, and after discount of 10%, it was 2741. Now similarly, let's say a customer gets a discount of 50%. So all you have to do is divide that value by 2. So let's say it is this third customer over here who gets a discount of 50% on his monthly charges. So let's go ahead and divide that cell value by 2. I need to select churn $1 monthly charges, and cell number is 3. I will divide that value by 2, and I'll store it back to the same cell. So that will be churn $1 monthly charges, and cell number is obviously 3. So let me refresh this now. View of churn 1. Right, so initially the monthly charges were 53 over here, and after giving a discount of 50%, his monthly charges came down to 26. So from 53 to 26. a discount of 50%. Right, so these were arithmetic operators. Now we'll go ahead and work with relational operators. So relational operators basically help us to find out the relation between them, such as which one is greater, which one is lesser. So now let's say I would want to find out all of those customers whose tenure is more than 60. So let's go ahead and do that. So for that I will type churn1 dollar. I'll select the column which is tenure and I'll just use the greater than operator. That is churn1 dollar tenure is greater than 60, and I'll store this in, let's say, C tenure. Right. So let me have a glance at this now. View of C tenure. Now these are just false and true values. So what basically this means is, so wherever you see false, this means that the tenure is not greater than 60. And you see this true value, it means that the tenure is greater than 60. So let's see, let's actually verify this. So this is the tenure over here. So we see that this is the only value where tenure is greater than 60. And we have a true value for that. Right. So now if we actually want to clearly see the values wherever the tenure is greater than 60, we can use the subset function for that. So I'll use subset. I'll give the name of the data set first. Right. So from this data set, I need all of those values where C of tenure is equal to true. And I'll store this back to C of tenure. Now let me see what is the result. Right, so we see there are 1407 customers whose tenure is more than 60. So you see this over here. So these are all of the customers whose tenure is more than 60. And we found that out using the greater than operator. Right, now similarly we'll use the less than operator to find out all of those customers whose monthly charges are less than $10. Right, so I will type churn1 dollar monthly charges, and this needs to be less than 10, and I'll store this in C mon. Right, so let me have a glance at this. C underscore mon. And now let me use the subset function to find out the actual values. So I'll type subset, I'll give the name of the data set, I'll type out CMON over here, and I need all of those values where this is true. Right. I'll store this back to CM of n. Now let me have a glance at this, C underscore M of n. So see that there are 0 entries, that is there is actually no customer whose monthly charges are less than $10. Right, so this was the greater than operator and less than operator. Now we'll go ahead and also work with logical operators. So logical operators are basically and or. So these basically help us to give multiple conditions. So let's say I would want to select all of those customers where gender is male and senior citizen is 1. So we can do that using the and operator. So what I'll do is I will type churn1 dollar gender and I'll keep this to be male. Now I'll use the and logical operator. Now I will need to select all the senior citizens, that is where churn1 dollar senior citizen is double equal to 1. Right, and I will store this in, let's say, C underscore ms. So let me have a look at this. So I'll type view C underscore ms. Now let me use the subset function to find out the real results. Subset churn1 C underscore ms is double equal to true, and I will store this back to C underscore ms. Now let me have a glance at this. Right, so there are 574 entries or 574 customers whose gender is male and who are senior citizens. Or in other words, there are 574 senior male citizens. Right. So this was the AND operator. Now we'll go ahead and work with OR operator. So let's say I would want to select all of those customers whose internet service is either DSL or fiber optic. So let's use the OR operator for that. So what I'll do is I'll type churn1 dollar internet service is either equal to DSL. Then I'll use the OR logical operator. I'll type churn1 dollar internet service equals fiber optic. That is, I will get the list of all those customers who use either of these internet service. And I'll store this in, let's say, C underscore internet. Alright, so let me have a glance at this. I'll type C underscore internet. Now let me use the subset function to find out the result. I'll give the dataset name, then I'll type C underscore internet and find out all of those values where the result is true, and I'll store it back to C underscore internet. Right, so I see that there are 5,517 customers whose internet service is either DSL or fiber optic. So we are done with the OR operator and operator. Now we'll also go ahead and work with NOT operator. NOT operator basically gives us the contrasting value. So let's see, we'll work with the senior citizen column, and I would want to select all of those rows where the senior citizen value is 0. So you can use the NOT operator for that. So what I'll do is churn1 dollar senior citizen is not equal to 1. That is, so I will get all of those values where this value is not equal to 1. And since the only other value is 0, so I'll get all of those rows. And I'll store this in, and let's say C not senior. And let me have a glance at this. Right. So let me use the subset function, subset of churn1, and I'll give this to be double equal to true, and I'll store it back to C not senior. Let me have a glance at this again. View of C underscore. Right. So there are 5,901 customers who are not senior citizens. Right, so we've worked with assignment operators, arithmetic operators, relational operators, and logical operators. And this brings us to the end of this session. Thanks for attending, and let's meet in the next class.
If you want to make a career in data science, then Intellipaat has IIT Madras Advanced Data Science and AI Certification Program. This course is of very high quality and cost effective, as it is taught by IIT professors and industry experts.